Thank you for joining us for part 2 of the spotter training. My name is Nathan Marcelli. I'm a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in northern Indiana. And here in part 2 we're going to go over the role of spotters and why you as spotters are so critical to the warning process. First of all, as spotters you verify what National Weather Service meteorologists see on radar. The radar is a tool used by meteorologists, but it is not an all-telling tool. There's still a lot of portions of the storm we're not able to sample with radar, which is why your spotter reports are so valuable. You are really our eyes and ears out in the field looking at these storms. In addition, quality and timely spotter reports add credibility to the National Weather Service warnings. The public is much more likely to take action if in the text of a warning there is a mention of a spotter-indicated hazard as opposed to radar-indicated. So basically, in summing things up, National Weather Service meteorologists examining radar data plus quality spotter reports from you equal credible warnings. Spotters are critical in the warning process because radar suffers from a couple of limitations which we'll talk about in the next few slides. One of these limitations deals with the fact that the radar beam increases in height as the beam moves away from the radar. And to show an example of what we mean by this limitation, we're going to take a look at two storms, Storm A, close to the radar, and Storm B at a greater distance from the radar. With Storm A, we are viewing lower portions of the storm, whereas in Storm B, the radar beam is sampling upper portions of the storm. So you can see there's a significant part of both Storm A and B that the radar will just not sample. And that's why we need spotters to fill in the extra information that the radar is just not able to provide. And you can get a sense, and when we talk about tornadic circulations, we really want to know what's going on in the lower portion of the storm. And a lot of times the radar has a shortcoming in that regard because it just cannot sample low enough. The second radar limitation deals with beam width increasing as the radar beam moves away from the radar. And to give an example of what we mean by this limitation, take for example a storm fairly close to the radar, about 60 miles. The radar beam is fairly narrow in width at that distance, but when we get to 120 miles and especially 180 miles away from the radar, you can see that beam width increases significantly. That lower resolution of the radar beam means that several important features can kind of fall in between where the radar is sampling. We won't get a full sampling of some of the important features of the storm. And that's, once again, that's why we need you as spotters to help fill in that critical missing information. We mentioned that one of the critical roles that spotters play in the warning process is to add credibility to the warnings. And this is important because quality and timely spotter reports cause the public to take action. There is a higher probability of public response when there is a mention of a trained spotter report in a warning. The public is much more likely to heed a National Weather Service warning when an actual report has been confirmed. And you will notice many times in our severe thunderstorm, tornado, or flash flood warnings, we will embed spotter reports inside of the warning to add credibility and to cause the public to take action. You will also notice this mention of spotter reports not only in the warnings but also in the local storm reports which are sent out by the National Weather Service in northern Indiana. These spotter reports are used by media, emergency personnel, and other agencies. So in summary, National Weather Service warnings plus ground truth from your storm reports as spotters, that really drives public action. National Weather Service warnings alone won't drive public response nearly as much as it would if not combined with that ground truth from you. Your spotter reports are not only critical in real time during the warning process, but even after the storms are over and after an event is over, these spotter reports can serve a valuable purpose. For example, in National Weather Service, we will use your reports to calculate verification stats to help improve our performance. We will go back and study things that went right and things that could be improved on an event which has occurred, and this can only be done if we actually know what really happened, and that's where your spotter reports come in. In addition, spotter reports are critical for a database to develop historical records, and this database of historical records can be used for research, and emergency personnel will often use this database of spotter reports to help in mitigation, planning, and response activities to natural disasters. It's important to note that the National Weather Service is not the only agency that benefits from your spotter reports. As shown on this slide, there is a wide range of agencies and partners which benefit from your reports, and that can include local and national media, emergency response personnel, emergency management, and the Department of Homeland Security, just to name a few. What your quality and timely storm reports do will help all of these agencies provide a consistent message during an event. And as we mentioned, your storm reports help convey impact and urgency, which helps drive public action. As we mentioned, that extra urgency from an actual confirmed report really is what drives the public to take action to a warning. And finally, as we mentioned, that quality storm report database, which is developed from your storm reports out in the field, is used to help minimize loss and facilitate recovery by emergency management personnel.